the issues that are affecting us for the day. That's what we aim to do. Pineapple on pizza. Really want to push us as people towards thinking more openly. Hello guys, welcome back to the show. This is Hot Takes with your host Luke Lascari, and today I have a guest with me in studio. Political scientist. What would they call you?
Political scientist.
What would they call you? Political analyst. There we go.
I can analyze anything for you, but politics just happens to be one of them.
Moderator was. I always see you in,
blogging,
debate host, writer. There we go. So all that kind of stuff, that's really wrote for me. So yes, all of these massive set of titles, I want to welcome Corey Sandiford to the show.
I thought of you just yesterday.
And how so?
Because I was listening to the radio and it was talking about that law that the parent passed in France to protect child social influencers.
Really?
So so I thought of you, child social influencer. I had to think of it that way. Not that you need protection.
Just child social influencer. Okay, got you.
Not that I got that phrase in mind, that's why I always think of you.
Like how you gonna put it with the minds of my listeners, Guys, me and Corey go back a long way. It's way too long. Back to the days of what? That have been before
2013, yeah.
2013, 2012.
Yeah, 2012. More so 2013 to 2012.
Yeah.
That's when I got to know you for the evil creature that you are. People don't know, but
let's get this show on the road. Today we want to talk about a myriad of issues, but more so it was mainly like Toni Moore and her entry into the political fray, so to speak.
Trishy hat in the ring.
Yeah, exactly. Trishy hat in the ring in St. George North, right?
Correct.
Yes, and for the BLP, Moore was originally a senator.
Independent senator.
An independent senator. She wasn't even a government senator.
Yeah.
She was an independent senator, and Mia waved she hand and dipped she hand into a hat and pull out Toni Moore like magic, much to the surprise and shocking awe.
But we get to dig into all of that.
Barbados. Yes, we really should get to dig into all that. But I want to use my platform to touch on some just a few points, I'll crave your indulgence for a minute. I want to
more of the indulgence.
I want to take a minute to ask MTW what they're doing about Kendall Hill, because that hill is disgusting and it's been disgusting for months, and I don't understand why my MP has left it like that.
Your MP?
My MP, who's his name? Medic, Adrian Ford, there we go.
Okay.
And it's right outside his constituency office.
Speaking very vociferously about the environment.
Right, yeah, I would give him that. He's very good about the environment. He started cleaning up in my district, which is the first time anything like that has happened in the last 10 years. The first time that in my district that a political candidate has dared to enter the fray and enter the area and say, hey, what's going on?
Something can actually be done over here.
I know, right? Exactly. But yeah, I want MTW and Kendall Hill. I just want to fix, like, that road has been absolute garbage. They've dug up these sides and abandoned it. They were pointing out saying, well, it was looking pretty good, it was going smoothly, and then it just stopped. So now it's a whole set of confusion. There's that. One topic I also want to save for later on is the church on this march. I don't know when it's happening though.
Oh boy.
I know, right? That's we can have to deal with that on another podcast.
I won't deal with that myself, but
because it doesn't. I'm like you.
I just gotta log over real quick.
Right, I was like y'all didn't have anything to say on gun violence, on crime, on child abuse, on any any measures for COVID, but they rally so strongly. You come out,
strongly.
You didn't have anything to say about schools and education, church, nothing. But when I had the ability, all of a sudden, y'all come march. I was like, where were you?
Conferences. Since
March, like, a whole set of stuff was going on in the country, and all of a sudden, you can band together. It's like,
because they feel like they have a common enemy, and the common enemy has a face, so to speak. I don't know. They didn't do it for common law marriages. They didn't do it for.
Where were you when the family law act was passed?
Faces too.
Where were you? Domestic abuse, as you say. Where were you? Elder abuse, elder violence. Where were you? People starving since COVID. People out of jobs. Where were you?
You know what you know, right?
Yeah, of course. Okay. And I also people are in the Met office. I don't understand what's the issue with the Met Office? Why people are so upset? It's like, look out your window, it's raining, you know. It's like, what do you want? You know, you want them to hang out a rock, and if the rock is wet, you know, if the rock is blowing, it's windy. Like people were online complaining. There was a whole backlash saying that Met Office always getting it wrong, and the flood watch notices coming out late and stuff like that, and that they were complaining saying that it's inefficient. And like when they brought out the flood watch notice last week, it was that it came out that when they brought it out saying that flooding was gonna happen, flooding didn't really happen. It was kind of like just a kind of normal rainy day. But then what was it? Thursday, Tuesday, when they had a big downpour, and they were like, oh, the flood watch notice came out late when the flooding had already started. I was like, what do you want these people to do? They're not magicians. Weather is unpredictable.
You know that Kanye West song, Paranoid? You worry about the wrong things.
Yeah.
Wrong things. That's my people. All that energy you pouring towards same-sex marches, and you pouring towards complaining about the Met Office, you could be focusing on so much other things.
So many things, exactly. And that was really it. No, there was the COVID people. That whole discussion with COVID and that woman and the whole thing about local transmission versus what was the other one that people getting mixed up.
You mean community spread?
Community spread. There we go. And that whole thing and all that. And somebody had a really good post about. I think it was this girl on my Facebook, Melissa. She had a hashtag fix the protocols, and she listed out some pretty
fix what about them. Let's just briefly.
I tried to remember what they were.
What was the general thrust?
She put out a whole graphic that saying that the idea that it's like you either shut down completely or you allow some tourists to enter and therefore COVID to enter and take that risk is like, she was like, it's a false dichotomy. That you could do things that you could edit the protocol so that they're more stringent or more in favor of people, because they were saying stuff like, obviously if somebody's coming with a test, they're negative, you know they have to take a second test when you let them out into the public, and then for them to come back on the second test and say, oh, you're positive, and then it's a mad scramble to be, where have you been? What's been going on? And you got the health authorities there chipping, trying to figure out where these people went. And I can't remember where I went in the last 3 days. So God forbid somebody who's 50, 60, 70.
Well, this is your show, so I ain't got time to get into that.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on this incredibly briefly.
COVID and local attitudes towards COVID, and partially as a result of the messaging that people are receiving or not receiving, that's a big one for me. Big.
Like, we could talk about that.
But I realize I got a word to describe people like me right now, paranoid.
Yeah, because I saw somebody on and say, oh, it's not as bad as the flu, you know, it's not as, the mortality rate is not that high.
All I would say to your viewers, anybody that watching, listening, whatever, listen. COVID don't care.
Right.
The virus does not care.
Don't care.
It ain't gonna show up and tell you, hey, I'm here.
Exactly.
Ready to party. I think that's what everybody think, that, you know, you can get a chance to react.
Yeah, exactly. You get a chance to dodge. It can be already
doesn't care. Exactly. Telling you nothing.
So and then it's like, it's literally like rolling the dice. You might get it, maybe just a bad cold, and then you might get it and can't breathe good for the next, I don't know, rest of your life.
Blood clots all
got
over
blood
your body.
clots, got heart problems. It affected you in a myriad of different ways that you just have no idea.
The other thing is, if you watch international news, and I'm gonna be quick, like, I just convince people here can't watch international news, because if they did, they would realize it can't be raging in other parts of the world and not end up here. We ain't special. It's just in the magic. There's no force field, you know, God in a beige and that kind of nonsense that people here throw is kind of almost inevitable. But you want to limit. You don't want to just throw your hands and say people can dead anyway. That's not how it works, you know. No. So you want to limit it as much as possible. Once it get here, let's not. Again, these were just deep breath. Very, 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 very tiny things I wanted to touch on that were, you know, little niggles. Probably might go touch on it later on in the future. We want to hit it at the beginning of the podcast when most people are tuned in right at the end. But whatever you want, it is my show, right? I saw somebody made a tweet about Visit Barbados and the Crane partner to bring in influencers, but I could not independently verify it, so I will not touch on that. Visit Barbados to bring in influencers? And Crane bringing in influencers, but again, there was no, so I was like, I don't want to come out and lash them. That's not true. It was, I mean, I understood where the tweet was coming from, because it was like, where were you at this time now, bringing influencers and there was one that I'm seeing from the Welcome Stamp where it's like, they had somebody who came in and he's doing drone shots and drone photography, and it's like,
this is all well and good, but local Bajans can't do this. We can't bring in drones. You got all kind of laws to restrict drones, and people with drones here can't fly properly. We putting out all these regulations for Bajans to go. But then somebody come down here with a drone, like, yeah, sure, get along. And they allowing to do shots and do things that are coming out on government websites and government Instagram and stuff like that, and cheering it. Oh, look at this amazing shot of Barbados that this random tourist did, and it's like influencers and Bajans are here that can do this. So it's
we're in the time of sexiness and gloss.
Right, it's just all over, slap in the face. And I had thought that COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown would have taught us that we have things here that we can appreciate, that we don't have to go back to this whole time nonsense, so that anything from overseas is better.
No, we live in the exact opposite time we just described.
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to realize, because it's like tourism and them just clinging, like dead hand cling to this whole idea of what used to go before. Again, I think I finally got to the side track. I just wanted to touch on those things. I really wanted to dig into Toni Moore, the BLP, the DLP or lack thereof, what other opposition parties that exist, and this whole race in St. George North.
So this is episode 105. Anyway, that's real grown. We could be at that.
Listen, like, let's start with the political situation in Barbados.
Sure.
And and Toni Moore is all directly at the center of it. You have a sitting senator running for the other House of Parliament, and again throwing her hat in the ring in a very unexpected way. And she's also she's the leader of I can't remember, the Barbados Workers Union?
General Secretary?
General Secretary, there we go. So I have always found that anytime that you join Labour and political parties, again, it has been done in the past, but when you always join it, it's always it ends up always working out not for Labour. It always works out for the benefit of the political party, because you've effectively stymied, you've crushed a possible opposition, because Labour can shut down the country at any time. Granted, they don't want to, it's a measure of last resort, but I find that it does feel like a bit of a sellout move. If I were in the BW, I would feel that way, like, because it seemed for everybody like it just came out of the blue, just like that.
Well, you caused me with this topic to have to go and dig back a little bit in our history, see the history of trade unions in Barbados, the labor movement, kind of all the way back to the civil rights movement in the late 1930s. And I mean, from what I could see, it kind of makes sense, and I can't pretend that it doesn't.
Right.
Not in a good way, but
Right.
the kind of people, when you look at what trade unions do, the kind of people who will be drawn to leadership in trade unions will also be the kind of people who will be drawn to politics, because at the end of the day, it represents a body of people and
Right.
causes and that kind of stuff. And something that I wanted to put out to your people who are following this program is that I think we had this notion for the longest time. I don't know if it's been kind of dispelled now with the sitting government, that, like, to me, just looking around from the intelligentsia of Barbados and others, it's as though the political class here comes from, like, it's almost like there's a different set of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because up until the last government, we had this kind of very, like, cartoonish figures
Yes.
that we describe such as we used to. But now, with the current government, to me, you see someone like the Prime Minister pulling people like Toni Moore,
Yeah.
people who are known for other things,
Right.
not who just kind of raise up and this is their claim to fame, and then they do these kind of ridiculous stuff that you associate with them. So, to get back to the point, it kind of makes sense that you would see this person presenting themselves for political candidacy. Having said that, though, I just wanted to compare her a little bit. I wouldn't pretend to know the history all the way back in the 50s and 60s well enough to say these are things that went before. But the main example I know is, for the purposes of this show, is Leroy Trotman.
Yeah.
But his circumstances were entirely different. He got voted in with the government in 1986. He sat for 8 years. He was leading those protests against the government. From what I could tell, he was a backbencher. I couldn't see that he had any ministry or anything like that. But he was in the lower house, and he was at the same time leading those protests against his government, which I found was a very interesting position to take. Then in '94, he switched to being a senator, which could or could not be interpreted as being kind of like a move against his own government. You know, I can't represent them in all good consciousness if you want to look at it that way.
Exactly.
On the other hand, no, 2020 fast forward, so that was 1986 when he got voted, but that was a lot of time and water that passed on the bridge. We have an entirely different political scenario, entirely different. So the optics of it, you can't say that it's wrong, you can't say it hasn't been done before, but we got a one-party government. I'm not counting, sorry, I can't count the opposition. I'm not doing that. Sorry, we could get into that if we want, but I'm not counting the opposition.
We could.
29 to 1, but I call it one party. Fine. And then you have an independent senator, so someone who already has this post being pulled into the government. And I saw Verla de Pisa, I don't often agree with what she has to say, but I saw her say that it makes a mockery of our political system. I don't have the answer. I had the quote on my phone, but I didn't want to read it. But I gotta agree with her.
Yeah,
not much.
That's the same way that I felt reading what she said, because it was like, I gotta agree with you there, because it looks ridiculous. And then she had also called for Toni Moore to step down for being a senator. Obviously, if you can, I mean, she will have to anyway. She will have to by nomination. They did that pass. I missed that.
No, I don't think
I
can't remember the date, but it's coming.
Right. She will have to anyway, because it can't be both, you know. So I agree with you. I did agree with her when I saw that statement.
So you and I were talking offline about the independent senators and what they have and have not done since they've been appointed, really. Any comment on that? Because to me, there's context to this happening. This is why I don't want to be lost on people. I mean, it's happening now, and as I told you, I think people could kind of shrug it off. It's kind of like a folder on your computer that people on your Windows that you have open that you can come back to and reference at some point in time. But I don't feel people are outraged by it.
No, right.
Even if they feel I don't really like it, and I know the God's side of people in Barbados that do not like this one party thing. I don't feel people are outraged by it. But like these independent senators, what's the context for Toni Moore going from that to this?
You really have to wonder, because there's a school of thought that says that independent senators were chosen, they were like DLP people, they were seen as being DLP people, right?
We did that, but okay.
I heard that in one corner, and I was like, not really quite too sure. But I found it strange then that she was an independent senator and not a government senator, and that she would be chosen. It seemed, I don't know, I didn't know Mia's reach extended that far. It seemed.
I think Mia's reach is, is immeasurable.
Yeah, truly at this point, because
limits as far as this country goes.
That was felt like quite a surprise.
I didn't use the words just now, but it looks with the current political scenario, and especially for people who don't think that we have an opposition. And I mean, for me as an analyst, like the idea of how much senators can do or are really capable of is limited anyhow.
Yeah.
But yet still, in terms of politics of inclusion, is a little bit more crass even than the former Prime Minister Owen Arthur his were known for. And it took me a while to understand those, because I was a lot younger at the time.
Yeah.
I had a lot less experience under my belt. But this one start early, and it kind of really reached across. I don't entirely understand the circumstances by which, through which Toni Moore was identified as this candidate. It was a very closed door backroom kind of situation, and it was announced to the public this would be the case. She always appeared to be the Prime Minister's pick for the post, which I think is the most important consideration after all is said and done. But I was hearing the name Kay McConney.
Yeah.
I heard Faye Burke, who I knew did a significant amount of,
did a lot of work
mileage in the constituency. But it was just like Toni Moore, that's who it's supposed to be. That's who the Prime Minister wanted it to be, and that's who it was.
And it was just like, as you describe it, it was like there seemed to be, I don't know, I stand to be corrected. There seemed to be no nomination process, so I may have very well have missed it. I could hold my licks if that is so, but it just seemed to be like Mia was like, yeah, I want Toni, and that was it, and everybody was like, all right, yeah, we want Toni too.
It seemed to be semblance of a nomination process. And then some sort of deliberation took place, but yeah, this is my impression of it too. So I would take my licks if I'm wrong. This is just how it appeared to me. it was seemed as though there was supposed to be one, or names that were being bandied about. Then there was a huddle in some sort of backroom situation, and when it came out, Toni Moore was the name, and the only name that we've talked about since. And I mean, there is context to all of this happening.
Yeah.
Because to me, I look at the current situation and understanding Myanmar the way that I do to this point as she has become Prime Minister, because I have to understand her now in a different context from I did as opposition leader.
Right.
I do not think she intends to lose.
Oh no.
Anything.
No. Of course, we are absolutely on the same page.
She ain't looking at this situation like I got all of this so that I can afford to go. Put that another way. St. George North is by election, so we outside the general election.
Exactly. So
she's not looking at this as however it plays out, because that has then repercussions. If she were to lose this by election for one reason or another, that then has repercussions. That the way this plays out, the amount of support that the Bees get in St. George North or don't get, the amount of people that turn out for the election, and I meant to give your people some numbers too. Don't want to overdo it with that, so you could, rather than me spitting them out, you could ask me if I got the numbers I would give you, because they went back and revisited some from the last election for St. George North. But all the electoral turnout versus what it was in 2018, all of that has like weight.
Yeah.
You don't want to be able to say that, or from the Prime Minister's perspective, she wouldn't want people to be able to say that it was X in 2018 and it's Y now.
Yeah.
People are that much less motivated to support the BLP, and because all of that then has repercussions for how the government appears, and we all know this is a optics government.
Incredibly efficient optics government that is
it's going to get
very on point.
It's going to get Jackie.
But as I always say, me's special ability is smoke and mirrors. So she, as you say, were they to lose St. George North, it would look bad. They can afford to shrug off the optics of how it looks with pulling Tony out a hat, but losing losing election is not a general election again. But losing a by election is like, it looks shaky. It will have other repercussions. You say people would then start read them differently, and possibly as not as powerful as it could be. It might strengthen the opposition's ideas, and whether it's DLP, UPP, PDP, whatever, and they might say we've actually got a chance now.
Well, we get to talk about them. I don't see any of them. It'll be interesting. The most interesting thing, I guess, about this election will be to see how the Dems perform.
Yeah.
I could tell you. Okay, so the turnout in the last election, electoral turnout in St. George North was 63%, and the national was 60%. So right about the same. Can't really call that any higher because it's just marginally different.
Marginally, yeah.
The BLP candidate at the time, Glenn Clark, got like 80% of the support.
80.
Yeah.
But yeah, they said it was a stronghold.
Right,
so.
it stayed with the Bees all the way through those years that the Dems had
20 years, right? Yeah.
Right. From the time he went to, he never lost. He never came out with a swing or anything like that. So it went back to being as strong as it was in 1999. You remember what kind of election 1999 was. So it went back to around that same 80% vicinity, and the Dems got 13%. 745 votes for Jepta Ince. So the people know, I look at my social media and I'm seeing these people, intelligent people who I think of party intelligentsia of Barbados, suffering from what I can only call kind of like this two-party sickness, which either they got it from Further de Pisa, because she's definitely suffering from it, or either they got it from her, or they just so happen to have it as well. So they're kind of like fooling themselves with this kind of thinking that, okay, we live in a two-party state.
Right.
This always happens. You have a seesaw, one government gets in power, and eventually it swings back the other way. Because these people are presuming that the Bees now are they're less popular than they were in 2018 because they've introduced all these policies. Life in Barbados is hard. All of that is true. So they assume that disgruntled BLP support becomes DLP support.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah, it doesn't.
It's super not true. Because they're looking at the 2018 election. Here's a mistake that they're making. They're looking at the 2018 election like the Democratic Labor Party lost the election. The Democratic Labor Party did not just lose the 2018 election. The Democratic Labor Party got washed away in the 2018 election. They got punished by the electorate in the the 2018 election.
Yeah.
And I would say when you look at the numbers, it's more a situation of their support not turning out than it is, at least in St. George North, than it is of the Bees. The Bees perform well in St. George North, but the percentages are slightly higher in terms of the support they would have lost as opposed to what the BLP gained in St. George North. Yeah.
Even my enemies familiar with the DLP now.
The DLP is yet to reach the 21st century.
It's there, like, all of it is so much, everything with the DLP that I've seen so far leaves so much to be desired. Like, the introduction of Floyd Reefer, everything like that is, even the way that Verda approaches things, the way that I saw, what was that guy, the former AG, up here and now suddenly to speak out, it was like, is he still with the party? Whatever. But you know, it's like, as you say, it feels so much like it's lacking, like it's so far behind, like they are yet to catch up, are yet to understand why they lost. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why they lost and where the current state of the country is, and really have their thumb on that pulse of the country to say, okay, this is what people want. And they wonder if they will have it with St. George North, but I highly doubt it. I mean, again, a BLP stronghold, so there's that to contend with, and then there's the fact that I don't know how well Floyd Reefer has been in St. George North, or how much he has operated, or how good he is on the ground, or anything like that. But
he ain't got no political
acumen,
history, or anything like that. You can't look back and say that.
I saw people talk about it, and like that. What is there to? And somebody took offense to that and said that Peter was denigrating the man for being a cricketer. It's not that he's a cricketer. Is that
I denigrating him for being a sportsman? I'm not. It's not denigrating either, but it's just when you look at it from the perspective of political analysts, the first candidate, Democratic Labor Party, finally chopped out his mouth of making sport.
I know.
It's funny when you think of it that way.
I know, right? And that's. It's like we all still. It's almost still that y'all don't get it, 'cause it doesn't feel like. No offense to Floyd, it doesn't feel like a serious candidate. This is not somebody tried and tested. You basically throwing somebody brand new out there, granted you
hope it's popular.
Exactly, we hope it's popular. One the same as with me and those is like I feel like you pull them out of a hat, you know, it's like there had to be somebody on the ground, somebody knocking about behind chapter ends, or somebody who was there on the ground doing the work for the last, it was 10 years, or even in the last in the time since the last election.
I can't blame them for not wanting somebody associated with chapter ends, because between the former AG,
well, you said 745 votes.
Yeah, Dennis Lowe, all of them. I anytime any of them speak so associates themselves with the party, I think that only hurts them.
Yeah, I agree, because
it does damage.
The party got rejected. Like that entire party was rejected by the people, and then again, like that old guard, like George Pilgrim, lost again. And that was surprising to me. I don't know how
that he didn't manage to beat.
Verda.
It wasn't surprising to me.
I thought that he would have won.
You thought so?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I thought that he would have been more. It felt like it was just handed over to Verda, but no, it was a real challenge. It was like people were saying, "We don't want you, George. We want something new." The question is it that they really wanted Verda, or in the face of George or Verda said, "Well, let me take a gamble here with Verda"?
But I mean, I'm looking at the Democratic Labor Party, I'm not seeing freshness.
No.
So there are interests within the Democratic Labor Party who I know and I've met personally, and I like these people. I would like to see these people do well. I like to see the Democratic Labor Party do well for the sake of politics in Barbados on balance. But I seldom see these people associated with the party. One, not publicly anyway, and I think that they really struggle. I've been hearing calls for Verla de Pisa to identify her candidate team for the longest while. I didn't think it was the first thing she needed to do, but as time went on and she hasn't done it, I really had to say, okay, it's time that you do this. I think there are a lot of the valuable things that she could have been doing in the meantime, and I do feel like people with the Democratic Labor Party feel as though they're waiting to exhale all the time.
Yeah.
At various points, because I feel that way myself. So you waited to exhale like any last decade for the election. Frondell kept you waiting. Then finally called the election. You wanted to see what they were going to bring to the table. They didn't bring anything except insults and crassness. And then, you know, they only further insulted your intelligence if you consider yourself intelligent. Then the election came and went. You wait to see what they were going to bring when they had been punished and they were in opposition. I can't even call them the opposition, but they were out of government, out of parliament and all. And they didn't bring anything. I always heard that talk. I didn't think they were ever going to apologize because it's a hard thing to do in politics to admit weakness. But I think that there are ways that they could have done it. What has me in all of this is that
these type of things,
Verla keeps talking about their consultant having had research done, or they had a consultant come in and tell them these things. I'm like, who are you consulting with? Who is advising you? Because the things that she's doing and the ways that she's posturing herself, and I do not think, I maintain this day, I do not think that, I think for the pieces of intelligent woman, I do not think she's an idiot. However, when I see the way she has not been posturing, and this to get back to the waiting to exhale point, like, you're not doing anything. It's like you're waiting for, they're not showing any vision. You're not showing any direction. You're just playing the game of the government is going to mess up. And when it messes up, we're going to be here.
We here to, you know, complain. And that's why it always seems like from her, it's like you constantly complain about something. Whenever I see Verla in the news, it's like the government didn't do this right. They didn't do that right. They got this wrong. They did this wrong. It's like, but you're not offering any solutions. You're not saying this is what.
Nobody wants to hear it from you.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear it from you. It might be true, but I don't want to hear it from you.
True. Very
true.
Do
something else. Like, show me something different. Talk about you.
Do exactly.
Listening.
Exactly. You know, we're waiting, but
yeah.
There's nothing. They offer nothing, as you say. There's always something in relation to government, but nothing in relation to the DLP. Like any setting out, as you say, any brand new mandate.
You don't know. What is question? What does the Democratic Labor Party stand for? 2020. Forget Errol Barrow, because to me all that was 2018.
Done, exactly. So
what does the Democratic Labor Party stand for? What's its brand?
Question mark.
So the reason why I say they haven't reached the 21st century, to me, in addition to that, the fact that they don't really have an established brand. Their established brand in people's heads is no Frandell Stewart and his government, which is unfortunate, is because to me they don't realize, first of all, Mia Motley has captured the Barbadian imagination
in a way that we've hitherto
completely
not
captured
seen before.
That's a topic in and of
itself. A topic in and of itself.
I don't know if you meant to talk about that today.
I have it here, but I just like...
I'm a little bit appalled at the intelligentsia of Barbados and the attitudes that I see coming out of them, because it's like they don't want to think. This reminds me of a jaded, not jaded lover, but somebody who was in a bad relationship, and the next person that come along, they judge that person based on the previous experience, as opposed to trying to be more objective about what's in front of them.
Being more open-minded and seeing things for what they were.
For better or worse, Mia Motley has captured the Bajan imagination. Completely captured it. People's thinking, what they think they should think, everything. And the Dems are getting all like they do not realize that if you're going to beat the bees, you got to come better. They will have to figure out a way to come better. It ain't be enough to point out things that the government is doing wrong.
Because nobody cares, you know?
Whatever Mia Motley represents for Bajans, you got to come better than that.
Way better than that.
And you, as we have been saying, it's an optics government. So people look around and you seeing, oh my God, that road up there by Ford's Road that I just drive to come down here, wide open now and smooth and in a way feeling sweet like you never before. All that land that clear out off the highway,
off the side now that
between
you know
Hosel turning and Norman Nels roundabout. Like, to me, Mia Motley is determined to be the GOAT. She's determined to be the greatest of all time. She's determined for you to feel her and her government. Yeah,
to feel her and see her, and she's always in your face. And in a kind of reverse Donald Trump, where he's always in the news for bad things, she's always in the news for good things. It's always like she's there, and it's a departure from Frandell, because Frandell was just like, yeah, we here. I ain't saying nothing. You gotta figure out for yourself.
And when he did say something, he would offend.
It was hard. It was offensive, because you're talking down to people. You're talking big fashion and saying all kind of nastiness to people and using big words to attempt to appear superior. Granted, he was also very intelligent, but you gotta talk to people like you gotta meet people at the level that they're at.
Right. So is a welcome stamp is I just thought of something else. Is bringing in Ross students at Sherborne. Is like all of these like sexy things. I say sexiness on gloss. You gotta beat that.
Yeah.
That's what the Dems don't realize. Yeah. You gotta come better than that.
You gotta rebrand it. Gotta be sleek and brand and new and sexy and all of that.
Every time I go on the road, I see Mia Motley and the BLP government. Yeah. Literally. When you look around, she want that when you look around the country that you see the trademarks. So like that's in people's psyche. She has it.
Yeah.
Don't think she doesn't further, because she has them. She has their brains. So whatever you're bringing got to be better.
Got to be so much, because you say she's there. She's in your minds, and as you touched on before with the intelligentsia, I find that the DLP before wiped out the entire Barbadian intelligentsia, people who were accustomed to speaking out. I don't know whether it was through fear of victimization or just general bad treatment, or just, you know, they were the thing in power. And I found that they determinedly, I lose the word,
methodologically.
There we go. They stamped out the intelligentsia.
Systematically.
Yes, systematically. There we go.
Methodically.
Methodically. There we go. A lot of them just went throughout the years. A lot of the columns, a lot of people speaking out, everything I just watched over the years, those last 10 years, that last decade, people just stopped speaking out. And now that Mia's come along now, as you described, people want so badly for something else to be good and something else to be great. It's
all
like,
the time.
all the objectiveness has gone out the window. You just want something different, and different is better. And there's no kind of, okay, you know, I like what you're doing, but I think that you could, everything is just, Mia is good, is the cult of personality
like,
around
she
Mia.
can have an ego.
Exactly.
That she could be driven by playing popularity politics or anything like that.
Exactly. There's nothing like that. There's no viewing of that. I don't see anything. And then there's that whole idea of what I could only describe as kind of like a two-party system for her. It's like either there's no objectivity. It's either you like her or you absolutely hate her. So immediately that you have to say anything that doesn't fall into the standard line. You a hater, you anti-Mia, you anti-BLP, you're a DLP candidate. I saw Jeremy Stephen deal a lot with that.
Did you?
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
It wasn't for Mia. I found it was more, was it for Mia? He was accused of being a DLP candidate, wasn't it? Because he would say things that didn't fall in line with government perspectives, and people accused him of being on one side of the fence.
This since the last election?
This is since the last election. I think it happened in both ways. I think people accused him of being D, and people accused him of being B because of what he would objectively view things, and people would say, okay, well, you're not for my party, you're for the next party.
That's sad. I hope to deal with this myself, and it's for a different show of yours, but I saw the Prime Minister do that interview on same-sex marriage with the BBC, and the reporter, quote-unquote, came for her during the interview. Honestly, I find that's what journalists do. And I find that in the situation with our laws being such as it is, that I was kind of disappointed in me that she went on the show not expecting that kind of question, because it's kind of like, anyhow, I won't get into the technicalities of it, but when I looked at the comments thread, I'm seeing people who I regard as being intelligent, and they're talking about he wouldn't ask her that if she wasn't a woman. They were talking about how Mia Motley, she looked like she wanted to cuss him. The memes came out with the user cunt, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
that she was about to ask the man. So no, I'm not implying that that's what the Prime Minister actually wants to boy to sue me. But at the same time, I just was disappointed in the lack of objectivity. I was real disappointed to see people who I consider as intelligent being so drunk on this Mia Motley Kool-Aid that their minds just run to a place of defending her.
Yeah.
And doing what you were talking about with you and for my party. I don't know if it's their party, but Mia Motley is their woman.
Is their
leader.
Regardless of who them vote for in the last election, she is the body now. She is the supreme leader. That type of thing. I saw that the other day. You described that interview. I saw it the other day when there was a little clip that came out. I believe it was on Twitter with the flooding last week. And probably last week, Tuesday again, or Monday. And there was a clip of her wading through the water. I can't remember. Somebody was showing her something. I don't know if it was Charles. I can't remember. Was he minister in, I can't remember what his name is. Charles something.
Charles Griffith.
There we go. Charles Griffith. Or it was, exactly. Or it was Ian Gooden-Edgehill. Or it was Dale Marshall. Somebody was showing her something with her when she was wading through the water. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Nobody needs to see you. You don't even need to be here. There are people who do that. There's the Department of Emergency Management. There are those people out there for that. This is not a hurricane. It was just some rain fell. There was water. There was flooding.
People love that.
Yeah, people ate that shit up. I was surprised because I watched
Jesus
the
being
clip
out there,
and I was like, "What's she doing down there? Like, you should be home though. Like, you got things you got meetings to do or prepare for tomorrow, cabinet or parliament or some shit to do." Is that we you out here waiting about in water at 9, 10 o'clock at night? People ate that shit all the way up. this is my prime minister. I love she. I didn't feel the same.
This is what real leadership looks like.
Right, that is it. I didn't see it in the same way as you were. It was necessarily like these people were necessarily intelligentsia, but it was just like, but there were some people there who I would regard as intelligent who aided that as well. And I was like, you have no right out here. It's like, but people love that entire cult of personality. Love anything like that. Love all the optics, all of that. And I just don't get it. I just would like some objectivity. I think that there needs to be a space where you could say, yes, this is my prime minister. Yes, this is my government. But also at the same time, you're doing this here wrong. You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to be doing that. And that there should be a space for that where you could say, yes, why I support the government, or I have supported this policy, or I support them in the past. This is wrong. And that doesn't make me anti-BLP or anti-me. I don't hate her. I'm not against her. I'm not out for her or anything like that. It just means I want you to be better. You can do better. And this is nonsense. You can't rub shit in my mouth and tell me it's pudding. So this ain't gonna fly with me. But I don't think that she necessarily wants to capture all of our hearts and minds. She gets the majority, and that's what it is. So she knows that shit like that works for the majority of people. So the naysayers like us who pop up and be like, I don't know what's going on here. She can be like, I don't give a shit, you know.
She doesn't have to.
I got my base, you know.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch back on a couple of points, just make them a little stronger that we passed over before, and the 2 points are tied together. The one is that she don't intend to lose.
Oh no.
And I wanted to make the point that if you look at the cabinet reshuffle back in July, and where she put the same Charles Griffith in St. John in the ministry
of water and water resources.
Right, exactly. So that to me sent a message that this person be in a position to fix them problems that
right, exactly. You from out there, exactly. You understand, yeah.
Right, prior to the election, because we about 2 years out, 2.5 years out of being due, because she can call that early. Why wouldn't she?
Exactly.
So that's a good example of that's a constituency that would be enriched. That is the constituency that would be enriched, and she making sure that she set up now a situation where she doing everything that she can to shore up that constituency, because she does not intend to lose St. John. And I think that soon enough, another example of a constituency that is within reach, I think is actually the most marginal, if I could call it that, because they still got real ground to cover, but St. Michael Northwest.
Wow.
Right.
I
think that soon enough, she will do what she has to do there, and she will address the fact that that is now within reach, and you will see a different approach to that before election.
St. Michael Northwest?
Who in it?
Yeah.
Neil Rowe.
Oh, wow.
Right. And, he hasn't got anything. He hasn't really he hasn't distinguished himself or been in a position to distinguish himself. So I believe between St. John, St. Michael Northwest, St. Philip North, which is Sonia Brown, who hasn't got anything either. It was very interesting, by the way. If people really want to be able to dig into this government a little bit, it was very interesting to listen to her budget presentation in 2019. Last year, yeah, that would have been last year. She, when you talk about this government and their optics and their approach to the optics, I sidetracking slightly, but I can bring it back in. When you talk about this government and their approach to optics, that was like one of the best examples I've ever seen of one team singing from the same hymn sheet, except for her, and it was told Ralph Thorne. I didn't get to see his presentation.
But he's also without a ministry, right?
He's without a ministry. But the two of them stood out. She stood out for me for sure, because I saw her as sounding completely different from everything else that was coming out. Anyway, so the first point was the fact that she doesn't intend to lose. The second point that I wanted to make a little stronger was this politics of inclusion, because you have a one-party state, and beyond having a one-party state, it's like we got one supreme leader, which is what, to me, makes the party appear stronger than it actually is.
Yeah, than it actually is, because she's everywhere. She even exists inside your head. What is it, George Orwell?
Start showing up in my dreams.
Yeah, exactly. TV can soon project out into you. They can soon set up big screens everywhere, and she can be appearing. She can be forever the face of the party. 50 years, it can still be Mia Motley, and that's because that is who lives. She embodies the party now.
But what I find that does, in addition to everything that you say, is it creates this situation now where the BLP is the picture of success.
Yeah.
So if ever you had an interest, you were somebody who had an interest in being in politics, you might already be in a position of leadership, but you want to take that a step further. You always had some political ambitions hide away, or maybe not so hide away. now is the time to run to the table and get involved with the BLP. And there really is only one option, because the Democratic Labor Party to me is not going to be an option for at least the next 10 years.
Not in the next 10 years at
that
all.
People want because people like to associate themselves with success.
Who wants to join unless you want back an underdog? And then even so, there are other underdogs to consider other than the Democratic Labor Party. You got UPP, you got you got Solutions, you got PDP. I know, right? But there's the illusion of options. There's the illusion of choice. There are other things. If you want to back an underdog,
no.
If you necessarily
no illusion of choice.
They don't want to, if you had that kind of thing for you, if you didn't necessarily want back.
I never wanted to be accused of crying down smaller parties. Mm-hmm. I love the idea of democracy. I love the idea of choice. But
same as the
let's be realistic. None of those. I saw Tennyson Joseph say it best in one of his columns, and this was before the last election, that none of them captured any political economy. There's no groundswell of. It's not to say that something major happened within the development of Barbados and they came in on that wave supporting that particular issue. I don't essentially really know what they stand for. Nobody really knows what they would do in government. I don't think they've captured people's imaginations. So
any ideas?
I think that, and it will be interesting to watch. Will it be interesting though? All right, it's worth the next day read. The St. George North and what they do or don't do in that by-election, because that's going to tell you, okay, the situation changed since 2018.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think it has. I think that all of the numbers coming out, I think Floyd Reefer will do a little bit better than Democratic Labor Party candidate did there in 2018, and then and he will do a little bit better than Democratic Labor Party candidates did in general election, because you remember most of them boxes was like anemic, like double-digit numbers. Right. I think he will do a little better than that.
Yeah.
And definitely I think she will not get the BLP support turnout that Glenn Clark got. She will get less percentage
less
support.
Percentage, yeah.
And the turnout, I think, would be lower in the constituency because of that. But I don't see her losing.
Yeah, I don't see them losing either.
And I think that the smaller parties, I think all of them are going to be there for sure.
Yeah, just for
pull
sure.
Pull a few votes here or there, but not even enough to make it interesting.
Especially Granville. Granville, you spend the last how many other weeks amongst quarreling about Nelson statue, supporting where it should remain.
What's that about?
I don't even know.
You can tell me what that's about.
I have no idea. Since there was the whole Black Lives Matter movement that had the spin-offs down here with David Denny and those doing the protests, and then it morphed into the one where Alex Downs did his protest about Nelson statue being up and stuff like that. Since around that time, that was like June, July, I've seen constantly on my Facebook, because he's a common mirror, so he appears in the groups, these long spiels, I talking about long posts. You click and see more, and you scrolling forevermore about why Nelson should stay up and why that Nelson wasn't racist and that he wasn't a white supremacist. And
so this political mileage to be gained from this?
That's the thing. It made no sense. It's like, you are a party leader, you structural engineer. Like, why are you doing this? It's like, yeah, you get a one-off or two-off post. It was a very right-wing, very conservative type of spiel. But then you go down the line and you do this. This went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And claim he was that Trevor Morris and other historians were wrong, and Nelson was pro-black, and that there's a reason why he should stay in the cage or Hero Square, whatever have you, and that's why he should stay up there in the center of Bridgetown, yada, 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 yada. But he went on about it. And then it was such a strange pivot to watch him pivot for St. George North, because it was like...
But he had any ring.
So he had any ring, because like, what are you doing out here?
You remember if that's where he ran in 2018?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but I found that like it's kind of ill-advised.
Right, it was like, how convenient.
Because if he has ambitions for 2023, whenever the next election is, and I assume that he does, and he shows extremely poorly in this by-election, which I presume that he will, because the numbers can probably be similar or worse than the last election, in my estimation. What would you have gained from this exercise?
What would you get exactly?
I mean, I don't think them should have run either, but I think that they felt like they needed to.
Because they still see themselves as the opposition. You don't understand that you have been thrashed really and truly by the electorate, and that you wouldn't need to have come back with a power team or really would have had to start building out a power team that is so.
But you wouldn't have expected to see them identify their candidate like the way it should have gone. The B's name Toni Moore, and then the Dems drops in the news the next day. That's not what we would have expected.
That's
to
what
see.
I thought was going to happen. Not that there was this long wait, and then it kind of shuffled out. Oh yeah, we got Floyd Reefer.
And it wasn't. You ever associated Floyd Reefer with the Dems before? Like I never heard his name in politics. I know him for cricket. I know him for cricket. I'm sure he's a popular guy.
Right, I assume he was popular in cricket, but I never associated him with politics or anything like that. But
I don't know. I find the whole thing strange.
Very strange. The entire affair. I wait him to,
including the government.
Yeah, I wait him really to see how Toni Moore operates. I wait him to see. Again, I suspect she will win the seat. Waiting for her to step down from the Senate. Waiting to see who fills that Senate seat.
True too. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's why I was like really looking at it. I was like, that's gonna be interesting. And to see what she does when she gets in the seat and how that will be like to trying to watch her balance out serving the Barbados Workers Union and serving the constituency.
I had a quote from her that I wanted to read real quick, which was her from the platform, the meeting that would have been on Sunday gone in the Glebe, St. George, the Glebe. That's always one of my favorite Bajan area names, the Glebe. Anyway, I shied away a bit from the life of politics. One of the reasons that I did is because I will admit I had a view that politics is dirty, and I didn't want to tarnish my good name with that of anybody involved in it. I'm not ashamed to say that might have been a naive position. So that's a quote. I don't know if people remember it, but I will, because I will be interested to see if time goes on how she postures herself in the current government, what her politics turn out to be, if we get a chance to see that, if she comes to regret that, taking that position and taking up in the government, being who she is and what she represents. All of that would be interesting.
Okay, this has been the Hot Takes podcast. I want to thank Corey Sandiford from #SickOfYou Corey for joining us today. Political analyst, and we'll be back next week with more good content. But we'll be back next week with more content. So thank you everybody for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for those who are listening. And we'll see Corey sometime again in the future. Cheers.